la. Oh,
People
yeah.
Like Games present
King in the castle, king in the castle.
a portrait of Francis Suarez.
What's up, people, and welcome back to the People Like Games interview series, A Portrait of. Today we have on the show Mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez. Mayor Suarez, thanks for coming on.
How you doing, guys? It's a pleasure to be with you both.
Man, pleasure to be with you.
You have been very popular in the social media sphere as of late with all the work that you're doing in Miami, as well as your discussions with financial and tech personalities and thought leaders in the space. But over here, we are a gaming show, so we're going to focus these things a little bit on gaming. So I will take it. So to begin, you probably are a little bit too busy these days to be maybe more of a casual gamer than in the past, right?
You know, it's funny. I was just literally at a motorsports facility, and they had a racing game that I got on and did. So, you know, yes, generally speaking, I'm at a point where it's very, very, very infrequently that I'm able to game, but I do see, and it's evident to me how enormous an influence it's having on our children's lives, and it's going to continue to have.
Were you a gamer growing up?
Yeah, I think like everybody, you know, I certainly played Nintendo, Sega, you know, all those different gaming systems. But, you know, I think it's evident that my children are going to be significantly more involved in you know, what you can call a virtual world, if you will, which is, you know, a world that they're going to see through a different portal.
So that actually brings me to my first question, which is, what cultural evolution do you think has happened since the time that you were growing up that has made gaming so much more socially acceptable, so that for when you're growing up and when we were growing up, gaming had a certain stigma about it, versus now it's maybe one of the foundational relationships. I saw you had a 6-year-old son, probably a gamer himself, you know, so, and you start seeing those relationships. What do you see, or what do you think has happened over that time?
I think what's happened from my generation to his is the transition from, you know, sort of a manufacturing economy to a knowledge-based economy. So when you see, you know, so many companies that are becoming billion-dollar companies in the tech space, you realize that, you know, our world is becoming a digital world, and whether you like it or not, it's just a reality. And I think you have to accept that reality. You have to embrace that reality as a mayor. I think it's why I've been doing what I've been doing on the tech side in particular, and on the capital attraction side. And you have to understand that that's the direction our world is going. So you can pretend it doesn't exist. You can get upset about some of the political ramifications of it, but you're doing it all to the detriment not only of your generation, but worse, your children's generation. I think that for me is what's been one of my biggest motivators.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. On that note, actually, I mean, I've been paying attention to what you've been doing in attracting tech talent, especially since all of this started. Also, you know, you getting on with Pomp and everybody in the crypto community, being that the gaming industry across the United States employs so many people, brings in billions of dollars, you know, in revenues. I was curious, it's sort of a two-part question, but like, what do you think gaming companies would benefit from coming to Miami? And then are there any initiatives sort of you have in mind to start attracting them? Because, you know, you get one gaming studio and that brings a ton of people. That's a real estate thing. And so it's across the board, super beneficial. And I mean, you've been completely on it with tech and crypto. So I'm curious what you've thought about with gaming.
I think the world of the gaming community and gaming as a technological platform, we were talking about it off the air. My cousin owns a gaming company called The Ultimate Gamer, you know, and so I'm very, very much a proponent of creating my out of Miami a gaming hub, and making Miami one of the most gaming friendly and gaming forward cities in America. You have to look at when you're talking about tech, you have to look at these sub components of tech. Part of the reason why I got so into crypto is not just because from a mathematical and finance background, which is what I have, does it appeal to me, but I realized that there was a vibrant crypto community. With gaming, it's the same thing. If you really think about it, gaming, I mean, the numbers are off the charts. I'm looking at some that were being given to me, you know, the sort of market cap of audience, price pool, monetization in 2018 was for monetization was 869 million, and in 2022 it's projected to be at 3 billion. So I mean, the growth, it's 30% growth in monetization and audience. It's 167 million, projected to grow to 276 million. In prize pool, it's projected to more than double in 3 years, 4 years. I mean, this is unbelievable. And I think it's weird because it's like crypto in the sense that it's almost like there's a sub community that knows it well, and then the mainstream still hasn't completely understood it.
100%.
But they will, and I think when both of those things break through, there's going to be a lot of people looking back, and saying, this guy was talking about this years ago, and and this happened as he said it would. I think part of the problem, the biggest problem that I see, Azim and Ahmad, is that there's a generational disconnection, right?
Yeah.
At 3 generations that we're talking about, pretty much usually in the world, you have 3 generations that are going on, right? You have my parents' generation, my generation, which I'm on 40, and then my kids, right? Those are basically the 3 generations that are happening right now. The kids get it. They get it. There's no issue. Our parents don't get it
at all.
Which don't get it. And people in my generation, some of them get it. Some of them don't get it. You know what I mean? And I think, but a lot of them do get it. You know what I mean? Because I think we were the first generation that grew up with a personal computer. Now everybody has a computer. So it seems like such a no-brainer, right? But I remember when I was young, and I remember when there was an Apple IIc, and I remember when having a computer was a big deal, and you're going to spend $2,000 on a computer. Oh my God. You know what I mean?
I don't think any kids know dial-up internet anymore.
Dial-up, when, I still have, believe it or not, guys, my private email address is still AOL.com.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
Gotta keep it classic.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
You gotta have the old Bentley,
Yeah.
You gotta let them know.
So our generation grew up with technology. Our parents really didn't. They're getting it. I mean, they're on Facebook. They're on a variety of different platforms. But, to me, things are happening quickly. The market's being disrupted rapidly. And the prior generation doesn't totally seem to get it or realize what's happening or want to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's...
Oh no, I was gonna say, other than like obviously lifestyle, right? Los Angeles is a big hub for it. Like, what do you think Miami has to offer to people who would want to come for the gaming industry?
Could you use a similar method to the way Hollywood does to attract filming to city locations? Like, I know Vancouver and BC and Canada do it very well. Is there forms of that you've thought about to start attracting them?
That's a great idea. I think when you want to get into tech, I think we need to pick, in some ways, things that we want to lead on. And I think crypto was one that obviously I picked. And what we're doing there is we're changing our laws, right, to become more crypto friendly, right? We're changing our state laws. We're also making crypto available for our employees to get paid, for our residents to pay in, and potentially as an investment tool. So we are actively doing things to not just talk about crypto, but to get in the crypto game. I think in gaming, it's probably very similar. And I'll tell you this is an interesting idea that you're giving me, and you may not even realize it. As LA kind of dominates the movie game, maybe for us, it's, it's kind of lost ground in a sense. You don't want to necessarily compete against Goliath in that sense. But maybe what we do is we say, look, we want to dominate the gaming space, and we create, instead of film subsidies, we create gaming subsidies for people to come and attract that. That's a very interesting idea. I'm going to look into.
We were just talking about this. With our own weekly show, the topic was going to be, what is the esports destination city or gaming's destination city? So when you think of certain places, you have cities or states that represent certain things. In gaming, you only have Los Angeles right now, but same with Silicon Valley, where that movement came to Texas and towards the South. Wouldn't be a surprise that you can incentivize some of these companies to make the move the same way and be ahead of the curve, like you were just saying as well.
And like you were saying, the fact that there's only like one city means that there's a lot of opportunity. And it also means that, let's face it, I mean, people are leaving those cities in droves.
In droves, yeah.
But they're very unsatisfied with the amount of taxes they're paying. They're very unsatisfied with governments that don't seem to appreciate them. And they're very unsatisfied with the crime and some of the social conditions. I mean, if you're paying a lot of taxes, the expectation is everything is going to be great,
100%.
and that's not happening. And so I think that's where we're seeing a tremendous migration, which creates an opportunity. And doing things in the gaming space is something that, to me, is what we would call, what Cubans would call un manguito bajito, meaning low-lying fruit.
Okay.
Exactly. You got to pick it if it's there and the opportunity. And it's, same way with the Bitcoin, you're building the infrastructure. So just being ahead of it as it establishes itself.
Yeah, because the same way like sports work, like when you think of Brazil, what sport do you think of? When you think of the Dominican Republic, what sport do you think of? So there are places that are considered destinations for those things, and those things don't exist yet for gaming. Like, when you think of a city, it just doesn't exist, right? So the opportunity is endless at the moment.
I agree.
And so now we'll ask you one of our show classic questions that we want to be asking all the guests. What is one book, comic book, film, any piece of art or literature that you personally would love to see adapted into a video game? Something that you could have an interactive experience with.
Interesting. I'm going to say City Hall. That would be
City Hall. No, that's not true. City Hall Simulator could be a big thing to show people how quickly you can legislate.
Yeah, man.
Or how slowly.
How to get elected, how to try to create coalitions, how to govern, how to make decisions. People often forget that government is big business. We have $1 billion budget. It means we spend $1 billion a year. It's our annual power. The county, which we are the largest city of, is about 8 or 9 billion this year. The state is about 93 billion. So you've got over $100 billion of annual purchasing power. So if there aren't any games like that, there probably should be.
They got simulators for everything, and I think that'd be a great civics lesson, especially for the younger generation. And actually sort of leads to what I was saying, which is in addition to what you were talking about with the Bitcoin and the gaming, and as well as certain generations getting it or not getting it, you're in a perfect position because a lot of the older generation that doesn't get it are in the positions of power or in positions of in places that they can empower actual tangible change. So same thing, if I wanted gaming to come to Miami, I can't do anything. But if you wanted to, you could actually create the legislation and the structure that comes around it. Yep. So based on what you're doing now and what you've been working on since you were elected, where do you hope for Miami to be in 5 years? What is the foundational pieces you're trying to set up to be like, okay, if I walk away from this, I did a great job and everyone here is set for the coming future?
I think the foundational pieces are as follows. One is we want to continue to attract capital, intellectual capital, as well as monetary capital to the city. We're now seeing a migration of venture capital, as well as private equity and hedge funds that are coming from New York and the Silicon Valley. So I think we're going to be one of the leading capital raising markets in the United States. And then I think the second thing is you focus on your talent. We have been an intellectual talent exporter for multiple decades. We want to reverse that trend. We want to go from brain drain to brain gain. We want to make sure that the kids that we educate in this community that grow up here stay here. And we also want to do it right. We want to make sure that all kids in our community have an opportunity to be successful. It's not easy, but nothing in life that's worthwhile is easy.
Absolutely.
And then actually that leads us to our last question, which you might have just given us the answer to, but what is the best advice that you would give to yourself as you were growing up?
Oof, what would be the best advice that I would give to myself growing up? Yeah. I think the best advice that I could have given to myself that I probably didn't follow was to be more methodical about doing my homework. Mm-hmm. I think I was not very organized. My parents didn't really, which is cool too. Like my parents were sort of a little bohemian about the way they raised me. They kind of let me do my own thing, succeed or fail on your own. They set a good example, but they weren't like, Nanito, are you doing your homework today? That wasn't the kind of parents that they were. They weren't like checking to make sure that I did my work. So I pretty much was a lazy student until maybe like a sophomore in college. So I didn't really apply myself. So if I would have applied myself earlier, who knows what would have happened. But then again, I think it turned out pretty good. So
Turned out
I was
pretty-
going to
you turned
say,
out pretty good, man.
if you don't do your homework, kids, you might become the mayor of Miami.
Yeah. Well, honestly, sincerely appreciate you taking the time in. I know you're busy. And next time I'm down in Miami, I'm gonna shoot you an email. Mod's actually never been to Miami.
I have not.
where are you guys right now?
In New York, Long Island in particular. Yeah.
All right. So, all right, guys. Well, we're here for you. We're waiting for you. Look, this is not a virtual background.
I
was gonna
noticed. I
say,
saw
if
I saw
I
the
ever
trees
come-
moving. I saw the trees moving.
All right, guys.
If I ever come down there, can I get a tour guide?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Done deal.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you
man.
again
Take
for coming
care.
on the show. Have a great one, Mayor.